So welcome everyone. Welcome back to another Whispers of Wisdom. Today's conversation I'm excited to dive into because it's on psychedelics and plant medicine. And I feel like this is a conversation that is so needed because there's a lot of differing perspectives and a lot of confusion when it comes to plant medicine work and shamanism and what we do here at Moon Rising Shamanic Institute and all of these places and spaces. So, and I think one of my most exciting reasons why I want to have this conversation is because Chantel, myself, and Isabel have very, very different experiences and perspectives. And I really love that. Like noticing how much like I'm excited for that because once again, I think this comes to a place of we're not trying to create cookie cutters. We're trying to get you to think about what does this mean for you and your life, and think and dive in a little deeper. And having differing opinions doesn't mean that you can't honor, respect the people around you, right? Like, so I really like having these dynamic conversations with our team here because it goes to show that, yeah, you can hold space, you can have difficult conversations, you can have differing opinions. And ultimately, I think we all end up in kind of very similar foundational space of this is what we believe, this is why we do what we do, and this is how we want to support our communities and their growth and expansion.
Absolutely.
Yeah, all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who wants to start?
I know who's gonna kick us off.
Well, I can kick us off because I think part of why we're having this conversation is there's often this kind of myth around shamanism that shamanism and plant medicine always go hand in hand. And there's this idea, especially when we start talking about shamanic journeys, for those who are kind of just coming into the shamanic community, that oh, in order to do a journey, I have to have some kind of psychedelic, some kind of plant medicine. Like that is necessary for this kind of spiritual growth and experience. And right from the get-go, I kind of just want to put that myth to rest because if we actually go back to the original shamanic cultures, the use of plant medicine was actually a minority. There were only one or two tribes who were really regularly using psychedelics in their practice as a foundational part of their connection with shamanic techniques. Obviously, it's kind of shifted and changed, and the prevalence has shifted, especially as it's come to the West. But really, when we go back to the roots of shamanism, it really didn't have anything to do with plant medicine at the start. It was this idea that that altered state of consciousness that we're reaching when we go into a journey or when we go into a deep trance state, we're doing that through the beating of the drum. We're doing that through dancing. We're doing that through shaking. We're doing that through staring at a fire. We're doing it through these techniques where we are connecting more deeply to nature so that our mind kind of gets put to rest and our spirit can go do the journey without being hindered by our mind. And obviously, that sounds really similar to what happens when we're using plant medicine. But the emphasis in shamanic techniques was that we are doing the work when we're conscious, when we're awake, when we're aware, to clear out our limiting beliefs, to clear out the gunk that's in our mind so that we become a hollow bone, so that when we go to journey, when we go listen to the drumbeat, stare at the fire, do the things, we're already clear. It's not that I think a lot of times there's kind of this assumption that we need the plant medicine to put our minds and our egos to the side so that our spirit can go and do what it needs to do. But in shamanism, for the most part, there's obviously some exceptions, but for the most part, the emphasis was on we need to be doing the work when we're awake, when we're conscious in our daily life to do that clearing ourselves so that when we journey, we're already there. We don't need the plant medicine to reach that state. Anything to add to that, you guys?
Yeah, I feel, yeah, go ahead,
Go
Chantel.
ahead. Go ahead, Christine.
Well, I want to also clarify too on the difference between like plant medicine, the way we're speaking about it now, and like psychedelics, right? Like, I feel like in shamanism, you see all the time, plant medicine can be the tea that you're brewing out of nettles, it can be the cacao that you're drinking, it can be like there's a lot of different kinds of plant medicine. And what we really want to be focusing on today in this conversation is where that intentional, purposeful use comes into plant medicine that has a psychedelic purpose, right? And so I mean, all plants can be some type of medicine, right? There's so many different kinds of medicine. Like I was just in Yellowstone, and it was like, I'm going with the purpose of intention of having buffalo medicine, like getting in touch with the land to receive buffalo medicine and be a part of Yellowstone, right? Like there's medicine in that. And what are we talking about here when we talk about plant medicine and then its use as a psychedelic?
Yeah, that's pretty much what I was going to say is knowing the difference between the two. Like, as we we started burning Palo Santo. That is plant medicine, right? When we're talking about burning sage, smudging, when we're going out and we're seeking plant medicine through our teas and all of that, that is plant medicine. And that's totally different than what we're talking about. Yeah, with using psychedelics to have that enlightenment or to get into that trance state, which we don't need. And we know that because we're proof of that here at Soul Rising, at Moon Rising. And the work that we do through our shamanic practices is to be able to journey and to, in our conscious state of being, to set that intention and to journey where we need to go to receive the messages that we are seeking. And also, with that is like, because I know here I've spoke about dreams, and I'm also like, as you know, I work with people who are really deep at dreamers, who are they go do the work. At the same time, it's like we need to still be conscious, not in our sleeping state to always go do the work, but to be awake, to be aware, to know we're setting that intentions. We are communing with our guides, with our higher self, with source, to be able to receive the messages that we need without having some kind of altered state, whether it's psychedelics, it's even like when we're doing breath work and all that, that can, you know, become a form of like pulling us into that trance state, but doesn't mean that we're enhancing our brain with it or that we're switching our mind up by the force of some form of medicine and plant.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
absolutely. I feel like there's so much confusion
Mm.
or hype. I think really it's become more and more and more accessible, just like cannabis became more and more accessible. And now, like, you know, the state of Oregon, like you can do any kind of psychedelics and it's legal, right? Like there's so many more studies on psychedelics, right? And so there's a huge conversation that we can have just on psychedelics, but what we're doing is like in the version of like, when is it appropriate for shamanic work? When are we coming at this from not a recreational standpoint, but an intentional plant medicine standpoint? And I think so those are all the different dynamics that I really want to dive into, touch on, feel into, and get curious about during this conversation.
And you know, something that comes to mind for me as soon as we start talking about plant medicine and psychedelics, and I think that differentiation is so important of understanding that in shamanism we connect with the spirit of the plants and the animals and all of it. We connect with the spirits of nature to do our healing work because they each have their unique medicine, right? And so like you guys are saying, those teas, giving the tree a hug, right? That's all plant medicine, the Palo Santo you were burning. And then we have this aspect of psychedelics where it's shifting our consciousness. And I think for me, one of the biggest mindset shifts that I see when it comes to using psychedelics or mind altering substances in your practice is that a lot of times it comes with this unintentional subconscious giving away of your power. It's like you look to the plant, you look to the medicine that you're using as this kind of embodied personification, which is beautiful, right? Because that's again, that's a very shamanic thing, like thinking about Mama Aya for those who do ayahuasca or the frog for those who do Kambo, right? There's this reverence for the substance itself, which is very shamanic. But what happens that kind of shifts us out of a shamanic lens and into a lens that I find can be in certain circumstances pretty detrimental is that we stop seeing it as a partner or a co-facilitator or a colleague in a way, like a partner on our healing path, on our path to discovering more about ourselves in the world. And we start to see it as this thing that we need in order to remove the parts of ourselves we don't like and call back in the parts of ourselves that we do. And it's a really subtle shift from how those substances would have been used in a ceremonial shamanic context, because again, we are having reverence for the substance, we are having reverence for nature, but it was very much in this understanding that we are just as much a part of this cosmic web, just as much a part of the important work that's happening as the substance that we're using. We're partners in that. And I think today in the plant medicine and psychedelic community, I really see a lot of this feeling of you're kind of giving away your power to the substance and feeling like you need it in order to do the healing work, in order to journey, in order to progress, you need the substance. And anytime we talk about psychedelics, I always think about, I was talking with one of my mentors a few years ago who began his journey with LSD and mushrooms and like really advanced hardcore psychedelics all the time. And he said that eventually it got to a point where he was on a trip, on a journey, quote unquote, not a shamanic journey, but a psychedelic journey. And he had developed a relationship with his guides through doing this. And at one point, the guide put him in a house in the middle of this journey and was like, you are using the drugs, you're using the psychedelics to look out the window when there's a door right here. You have to stop looking out the window and you have to walk through the door. And I think that that's such a beautiful metaphor because there is so much that we can learn from those experiences. There's so much that we can learn from those altered states of consciousness. But the moment that we start relying on those to do the work, relying on those to achieve the altered state, we have lost a piece of ourselves because we don't need them. They're a tool just like everything else that we do. But the moment that we start giving away our power to this thing and saying that we can't do the work, we can't heal, we can't progress, we can't whatever, unless we have this substance, that bond of sacred reciprocity has been broken because now the energy flow between you is unequal. And I find that that can be really detrimental.
Yeah, I also feel that not only can we be giving our power away to the medicine, but we're also giving our power away to the facilitator, whether it's a shaman, it's a medicine woman, man, whatever, but we give, people are giving their power away to that, expecting them to be holding this really strong sacred space for them and knowing that when if you're in a doing ayahuasca or not, if you're in a group setting, where do you think all that energy is going if that shaman or the facilitator isn't strong in their own medicine to be able to hold that space, right? There is that sharing of energy that's being released, and if we're just there open, crown open, everything open, that's when entities can come in, attachments come in. There's this sharing of energetic exchange that starts to occur between the people that are participating, and they're not able to really in the moment hold space for themselves because they're under, they're under, they're feeling high, they're traveling, they're journeying, whatever's going on. And I think that a lot of times when people leave, they I don't feel in the very beginning, because when I've worked with a lot of clients, I find that some come forward and they're like, they're like shattered, or there's like a fragment that has occurred because we're pushing through. We're not naturally awakening to the gifts that are occurring for us. We're forcing us through the veil. And sometimes the mind, our physical and our mind can't handle that. It becomes too much. And I've even seen people who have had really deep corded attachments to the facilitator, and it's like unhealthy because that person becomes powerful or overpowers them in their thought processes, their decision making, everything. And then people tend to go, it becomes like, yeah, like hanging out and smoking cannabis. It's like suddenly I need to go do ayahuasca every weekend. It's like, no, that's not what this is made. Traditionally, there's like a rite of passage that comes through. There's a reason and purpose of why people within shamanism, in tribes and everything, or, in cultures that do plant medicine, is because they are in that rite of passage. They're growing from one version of themselves to another. They're going to see through the veil. They're doing the vision quest or whatever that their purpose is, there is true intention. It's not just like in society now where it's like, oh, hey, do you guys want to go do ayahuasca this weekend? There is great preparation to go do that, and then great integration that follows. And it's become, I feel it's too much. I'm not against it at all. I've had my fair share of plant medicine, not ayahuasca per se, but of my own. But yeah, I just think that sometimes it becomes too much in society right now. And the identity, like, oh, have you done that? Like, it's a cool thing. It's like, yeah, it just keeps leveling. Oh, you haven't done that, then you don't know. And it's like, I was listening to someone the other day telling me how she can take high doses of shrooms. And I'm like, and she goes, and then I could do this and I can do that. And I'm like, I can do that sober. It's like I journey and can receive that same experience. And it wasn't anything against her, but it was more like, you don't have to take 4 grams of shrooms to get into that trance state to go and journey and receive the messages that you meant to.
Yeah, sometimes it feels like this is the little easy shortcut, and
Mm.
they now are using it like a crutch, right? And I think you're totally spot on. There's a lot of people out there just transferring their power into the facilitator. And I definitely haven't had a lot of like personal experiences with a lot of different kinds of plant medicine, and have a lot of reverence. And it also is very incredibly important to me to know who is the facilitator. I have such a high standard for who's offering this medicine, what their background is. Like, I interview hardcore for any type of, and it's very intentional. What's the purpose? Why am I entering this space of having this, psychedelic experience, right? Like, I saw myself um waver in this, like so many people do. Like, there's times where it's been held reverently, intentionally, months of preparation, weeks of preparation, changing your diet, coming to the medicine, standing in that place, and then getting and having an amazing supportive experience, and then swinging the other direction on the pendulum, where it's like everyone's like, this is so cool, let's do LSD and go to the concert and blah blah blah, and going like, well, this is the thing, totally different intention, no preparation before or after. Like, you're coming into the space of like, all right, the intention is to have some fun, and the intention is to have a mind altering experience for the concert or whatever it will be. And then going afterwards going, what the what was that? Never again. Like, I've had more experiences of like recognizing when the experience wasn't held reverently and just recreationally. Those are the experiences that I'm like, that wasn't worth it. That wasn't what I wanted to experience. That was too much. I wasn't in the company of people who were reverent. They were playing around, messing around. And because they're not energetically aware, they don't know what the hell they're doing. And they're not seeing the attachments that are flying in. They're not seeing the negativity that is possible of attaining during that time, and how many, because we all have an integration period, whether or not there is intention in the use, there's still an integration period where your brain is malleable, right? And so, and watching myself go, wow, I was in this experience for this many hours, which meant that there's this many days or weeks of integration period, and having to now take all of that integration time cleansing, healing from that experience. And I think that people just don't realize how much integration our brains go through every time we do plant medicine. So if this is something that you're doing every week, I'm going to go do mushrooms and hang out with my friends, I'm going to go do LSD and go to the concert, I'm going to go, right? Like, this is the new well, I don't know how new it is, but it feels that way. Like, this is the new hip popular thing to do. And I think that there is really an understanding that I want to bring forward of like, how does it resonate with me? what is the intention behind this thing that I'm about to do? How can I protect myself and keep myself safe and give myself the time of integration and preparation? Like, all of that is so incredibly needed when we do any kind of psychedelic work.
The other aspect of that with the integration period that I think gets lost sometimes is, let's say that we're going on a shamanic journey, right? We have our opening period, we're opening the circle, we're calling the directions, we're doing our smudging, we're making this really beautiful, solid, sacred space. We do the journey, it's maybe 15 minutes, and then we come back and we have 30 minutes to an hour of journaling, of discussion, of what did that mean for you, of all these things, right? And one of the things that really shifts for our students is, the way that I like to explain it is, what happens in the journey does not matter. It doesn't matter if all you see is a bluebird, or you hear a cricket, or you have an entire movie showing up in your vision. It doesn't matter. What matters is when you come back and you are then pulling it apart and figuring out, what did it mean for you? What was the story? What's the lesson? What's the importance? What's the detail? When you can bring back what you received from the spiritual realm and integrate it into your physical reality, right? And theoretically, that's the intention behind the integration piece of when you work with psychedelics or plant medicine. But what I find is that more often than not, the integration becomes, like you said, this healing phase where you've taken a bit of a hit. Like, your energy has taken a hit from whatever you experienced on your trip, on your journey, whatever it was, and you have to go and integrate it. I can't tell you how many times we've had students who come to shamanism from plant medicine. And before they know how to journey, they'll come into class and they'll say, I did ayahuasca this weekend, I did Cambo, I did something, and I had this really huge trauma from when I was 3 come up. And so I'm just in this deep integration process. Or I ended up having a panic attack when I came back because there was just so much that I didn't realize, right? Like, these moments of, like, I came back and wow, now I have all of this stuff. And so integration becomes this period of almost like calming yourself down so that you can step back into the medicine. And from my perspective, and obviously everyone has their own opinion, everyone is completely entitled to their own experience, their own path, their own journey, all of it, right? But from my perspective, having watched students go through the healing journey using plant medicine and go through the healing journey using shamanic journeys and not plant medicine, what I find is that there is so much more pain and upheaval and purging and wounding that happens in the plant medicine field. And the reason that I say that is because, again, when we go to journey, our conscious mind is still present. It's not calling the shots, right? Our goal is to be that hollow bone so that we can put our mind to the side and recognize when we're in journey, is this coming from myself or is this coming from spirit? That's really the intention. That's the reason that we clear ourselves out. But when we go and do, especially really hardcore psychedelics, right? What happens is our conscious mind turns off. It's not that it's present, but just in the back seat. It's gone. Our conscious mind is gone. Our conscious filter is gone. And our subconscious is blown open wide, right? And that's part of why people love psychedelics, because it opens up your subconscious networks for healing. But the problem is that when you go into a psychedelic journey and your subconscious mind is blown open and you're pulling up the traumas or the limiting beliefs or the wounds or whatever it is that are ready to be purged and let go of and healed, when you come back from that and your conscious mind comes online, your conscious mind didn't do any of the work in that journey with you. Your conscious mind essentially went to sleep and woke up with a new memory of trauma, of pain, of wounding, of a limiting belief, of a difficult energy, of the heaviness of the purging. Even if you didn't come back aware of trauma, it now has the memory of all of the purging that you did on that trip, right? And now your conscious mind, your conscious filter are back online and are stuck with it. Because again, that integration period then becomes, holy shit, I need to calm myself down. And we can put it in a beautiful light, right? We can say that, oh, my body did so much purging, my energy shifted so much, my subconscious cleared out a lot. And that can absolutely be true, but it doesn't change the fact that you, as a conscious human, once you're awake again, are now stuck with all of that. And if you don't have the tools, if you don't have the facilitators, if you don't have the mentors, if you don't have the ability to shamanic journey or the coaching techniques or whatever you need, EMDR, whatever it is for you, if you don't have the tools that are then going to be able to help your conscious mind, your full self, process, understand, integrate, release, and heal through everything that came up, now you're just sitting with it. And it can feel liberating because now you have so much more self awareness, right? But at the end of the day, what I find is that it often in the long term feels heavier because it's come from your subconscious where your brain was doing a really beautiful job of keeping it protected. And it's now just in the light and on the surface. And you've got to walk with that until you find the tools that help you actually do the processing. And often that's when students come and find us and find shamanism and classes like Soul Rising.
Right. It's because as things kind of trickle, because it's a trickle. When you learn how to shamanic journey, what is ready to be healed will come to the surface. It's not that we're digging for things. It's going to percolate forward as you are ready to heal it. And I think that is the biggest difference.
And I think too with it is that there isn't that integration period following plant medicine ceremony. There's a period with, maybe the following hour or whatever, but I don't feel like there's like this ongoing support system for those who go and partake, right? And if so, it's, well, you're going to come back and do another round of it. It's not, we're going to sit in this integration period and have some form of coaching or counseling, or here's the techniques to move through it. It's going to be more of, you're going to come back and keep redoing the plant medicine. And that just keeps reopening it. And it is going in on some level, searching for those old scars, right? What is that needs to come up? Because whatever is ready to come up does surface. That's the shadow work of the plant medicine, is what are we suppressing that's ready to come to the surface. But like you're talking about, Isabel, if you're not there consciously to process those things and be aware of what's coming up, and then suddenly you come out of this experience and now what was in the past is now in your present, you're like, whoa, wait a minute, what just happened here? And that happens for a lot of people. And then that is when they end up in our spaces, right? And I tell people it's not a surprise to me that you show up in a Reiki room, in a Reiki master's, healing space, because they are seeking what has not worked for them. And then they're like, okay. And on the other point is being sure that where the plant medicine is coming from. And, like a lot of people who are doing LSD and all that, the not medicine, but drugs that are happening now, whatever you're taking, plant medicine, whatever you're taking, it's not the same as it used to be. There's a lot of synthetic things that are being put into this, and there's a lot of that fentanyl and different stuff, right? So people are really truly trusting in what's coming forward, and if they're not doing the research on the facilitator's background, where are they coming from, because there's a lot of people that are self-identified as shamans. Right. And really, even shamans don't identify themselves as shamans. They're called the shamans by their people, not by themselves. And so even here, we have shamanic techniques, but none of us really are saying, hey, we're shamans, until we have gone to the jungle and we have been labeled and, have gone through that rite of passage for it. I practice shamanic practices. However, I have the shaman heart. Like, I know that, like that resonates with me, but I don't claim myself as that. But as a facilitator, I've gone through trainings upon trainings, and to be able to hold space for people that are coming forward to do the shamanic work, to do the journeys, to go through and to see through the veil for themselves, to guide them, and to have the practice that follows the integration process of it, to come in and to have more. Because even if you're looking at doing Reiki attunements, right, there is that process of preparing. We're fasting, we're journaling, we're sitting with ourselves, we are integrating ourselves into what we're getting ready to go do. It's not just, oh, you heard of Reiki? Come on in, let's, attune you. How many people have we met like that have never even known about Reiki, and then they get attuned and it's like their whole world flips upside down because they didn't even know what to expect, because there was no process of preparation for them. And so we have to look at all of this with the reverence that we're talking about, whether it is, leveling ourselves up in our journey work, whether that's doing attunements and having our energy really advance and rise, or it's taking plant medicine. But we have to do the work for ourselves to understand where we're going, because it shifts. You aren't the same person when you come out of it. So we have to look at, how is this going to affect me in the long run?
Yeah. You know what it reminds me of is, I think it was last year, our team did a plant medicine psychedelic experience. And it was really interesting leading up to it because Christina and I had a friend that we were talking to, and she was telling me, oh, I did that psychedelic a couple years ago. I think it was like a year and a half at that point. And she was like, it completely blew my mind open. Nothing I knew before I went in was real. Everything's a lie. Like everything's an illusion. Like her mind was just blown open. And basically, what she was trying to tell me, because it was my first time with this particular substance, what she was trying to tell me was be careful. Like, it's going to be scary. It's going to be hard. You're going to lose yourself. So just be prepared, right? Was essentially the essence of it. And I was like, okay, I can see that that was your experience. I can see that that really rocked you. Like it really shifted her because I knew her before and after. And it was a big difference from when I knew her before to when I knew her after. And I came out of the psychedelic experience, and I think the first thing I told Christine and Chantel was that wasn't anything I haven't experienced in a shamanic journey. Like there, it was just, and that's not me trying to be prideful or anything like that. It's just really for me highlighting that all three of us came out of that experience, and it was Chantel and I's first time. All three of us came out of that experience with a new understanding of ourselves, a new perspective, right? I definitely had some things come up that I integrated for the next year, right? And that was really beautiful. But I think that the reason I was able to do that is because I had such a strong foundation of journey work of these things, right? And it was interesting because going into it, our facilitator, who we all really trusted, we did screenings with her, we had like weeks of preparation, all of the things, right? One of the things that they check in the screening is, do you have a history of mental health disorders in yourself or your family? My parents both have some very interesting mental health disorder history. And she said, I know you, I know the work that you do. I think you're going to be okay, even though you have the history of it, right? And that to have that kind of faith put in me, but then also to have that faith in myself, right? Not just because she said it, but to know walking in that I'm going to be fine. I'm not worried about what might come through from my past or from my lineage or whatever it is, because I know the work I do. I know the footsteps that have led me to this place. I know the work that I can do after if anything comes up. I know that I have this sacred container. I know that I have my friends. I have Christine and Chantel here to hold space for me, right? Like I know no matter what that I am solid. And then to go into that experience with that security, with that knowing, and come out and say, it really wasn't anything different than anything I've experienced in a journey, was a really cool experience because it really just solidified for me that this is what we're talking about right now is true. Everything that we're doing in that space, we can achieve with shamanic work. We can achieve with mindset work. We can achieve, like Chantel said earlier, sober. And that doesn't take away from the fact that plant medicine or psychedelics can be a fantastic tool or a fantastic addition or something that, when used in reverence and in ceremony and really intentionally, can absolutely add something to your practice. But I don't think that we need to be relying on it to achieve these states or to have this healing, because at that point we're just, again, saying, I'm not enough as I am. I'm not worthy as I am. I'm still broken. I still need to release. I still need to purge. I still need to find pieces of myself. I still need to expand my awareness. And I need this plant to do it, you know? And even if we're not saying that out loud, that's kind of the undercurrent that I find runs underneath it a lot of the time.
It's so interesting because I come to this place too of like I can recognize, like if I, like my first time doing ayahuasca, I have been doing shamanic journey work for at that point 14 years, and I was like, cool. Like like it was like everyone's having these really big emotional processes and I'm just gliding through, right? And it's because of all of the work that I do in my spirit world, right? And I've spent a lot of time reflecting of like, what are we trying to get out of these experiences? What am I trying to absorb? What am I trying to feel? Because so many people are coming at this even from a recreational, like a psychedelic use as a recreational thing. Like, what are we trying to feel? And so often my conclusion is they're trying to feel moments of bliss. They're trying to find moments of ecstasy. They're trying to find moments of their aliveness. They're trying to find moments of connection with spirit. Right. And so then it's like, how do you cultivate those things without giving your power to a substance, without giving your power to a facilitator, without, you know what I mean? And so it's like, okay, so now I'm just like, all right, well, let's dive in. How do I live an ecstatic, blissful life? And as things come forward in it, as a sober person, how do I reflect on? How do I get curious about? How do I dive in deeper? And watching it unfold at a healthy pace instead of like all at once, right? And this is why I kind of fell in love with breath work, like understanding that holotropic breathing can elicit your own innate DMT in your lungs so that you can have these psychedelic experiences. But the cool thing about it is that you're in power the whole time. You can change your breathing at any time to bring yourself back down, right? And things can come out of that, right? Or like I'm doing a ton of somatic processing and breath work and movement work and like really understanding my physical container to really elicit an ecstatic body, right? A blissful body. And so I've been doing a lot of Tantra work, and the Tantra work has led me to walking around in like this really high blissful state. And there was a moment not very recently where I was like, oh my God, I feel like I'm on ecstasy. I feel like I am under, this psychedelic medicine, and I haven't had that in a very long time. And yet it's now accessible without taking something. And I know how to elicit it and bring it on. And I know how to calm it down and contain it. And I can be in the powerful position of controlling my own energy field, right? Like, and I feel like when I'm there, like here I am leading, like feeling into my ecstatic state of being without any kind of plant medicine and getting visions and talking to the land and drinking the teas and like being in the state of harmony with the earth, harmony with myself, harmony with my partner, like all of the things. And it's like, there's so, and things show up like the any kind of thing that shows up, then I can get really, really curious about. It's a timeout. Why did I see it that way? Why did it show up that way? And so this last Saturday, I led a shamanic Reiki day retreat. And it was so beautiful in the fact of like, here we are, all sober, and I'm guiding them into ecstatic states of being where they're opening up their energy field. We were doing luminous body energy work where they're open to feeling their energetic state in a new way without any plant medicine, right? There's so many different ways to elicit the same type of results that we're trying to get out of plant medicine in a sober way, in a healthy way, and an ease and flow way, and a harmonious way, right? It's just really, I get curious. I'm like, this is so much, it's so much more supportive to our bodies.
It really is. It might be, some might feel like it's a slower process of it, right? And it is,
I'm like,
because
yes,
there's a
that's
lot of,
good.
yes, there's a lot of learnings and teachings that we have to do. We become the student when we're learning how to do breath work, when we're learning how to do the journey work and all that. But then what you become is the master of self, right? And that's what I really embrace with the work that we do, and what I have learned as a student becoming a facilitator of it, and now doing that on a daily basis, is when my higher mind just opens up and starts flooding me with the information I need, or a visual that I need, because I'm seeking answers, right? So I can connect to that. It's like you even get to a point where sometimes don't even need to go right into journey, right? You just open up that space within you and you go, okay, what do I need to receive right now? And so for me, it's like really tuning into our discernment. And like my whole, I've always, like, say cannabis, I've always smoked, right? And then when I started doing my Reiki journey, I had to quit because it was taking me to a place of where I wanted to literally enter, like, heal everything. And I was like, well, how annoying is this? I can't even like relax with it. I feel you. I gotta Reiki you. I'm Reikiing the whole world. And yeah, it's fun and it's really like intense at times. But I stopped for like over 3 years. And then now if I do partake, it's not like that. Like I can just journey, I can be chill mode, but it's because I let myself get to the point of where it was no longer controlling me and I could be conscious in it. And I think that's the difference is if you're just taking and taking and taking, you're not in control. And then that's where we have to say, why am I doing this? Right? What is the purpose of it? What's the point in it? And if the point is just to have a good time, then try to at least do it in a way that is within a sacred space. We have to be our own like containers and hold space for ourselves. And that's what I was talking about before. It's like if we're going to even go and experience that, my suggestion to people is create your own sacred space before you take the medicine. Don't just trust the facilitator is going to do it for you. So create that sacred space, close your doors at the end, close it, give thanks to it, do your part on it. And even like you were saying, Isabel, it took you a year to process, to your integration process for the one experience that we had. That is so key for people to understand. It's not a week. It's not a couple of days. It literally can be a year of processing the emotions and the energy that came because of that. Even though you do deep journey work, right? You do that work. And so still that was processing some things for you. And there's even times where stuff will still come up and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Getting curious about it again. But it's understanding why it's showing up and having the facilitator, like we have each other, we can come back. What are you getting out of that? What do you feel in this, right? Making sure our community too is supportive and not just like, oh, what, and I think a lot of people, there just are not in those conscious levels to say, hey, you know what, you're probably integrating some of the work that you did with that plant medicine experience. And maybe that needs to become a conversation that people start having with each other when you are taking it, and not just like, oh, you're going to have a gathering at your house this Saturday. Okay, let's all pop gummies, or we're going to do this, we're going to do that. It still should be within ceremony of it so that everyone is protected. Because as we all collectively start raising our conscious awareness, we're all sharing stuff. Everything is being shared energetically. And if somebody who's an empath doesn't know how to protect their energy, isn't solid in their container, they're going to be the ones that are going to absorb everything that's being released in that conversation. So it's bringing in sacred tobacco, offering it to the land, giving thanks to the land for absorbing the conversation that we're having, or thanks to the trees that we're sitting around, however that is, but we need to give back to the earth too. Because even if all we're doing is sitting and having a conversation, like not energetic, but like an emotional purge, right? Where is that energy going? It's being shared between us. It's being shared to the land. It's going out into the collective energy. And we need, as people, to get to that awareness of, yes, doing an offering, giving thanks, having gratitude for nature, for absorbing it, and making sure that those who are very sensitive, that they understand they need to be extra protective of themselves so that they don't leave feeling extremely heavy from the conversation that they just had.
Right. And also giving yourself, if you found yourself in that company, giving yourself some self-forgiveness and giving yourself some grace of going, wow, that was an experience. And I'm going to check in with myself of like, do I want to do that again? Because now I'm having to energetically clean and purge all of these things. And knowing that, like, I think I found myself in that space time and time again in 2024 with the company I kept, like thinking that, wow, this is great fun and play. And then going, whoa, I am just absorbing all of it. And going, I'm no longer available for this. And how do I want to switch and where am I going, and what support do I need, and how do I need to get clean and clear my energy, right? Like, and so I want to also just put out there, like, if you have been participating in this way without a lot of conscious, intentional thought going into your practices, taking a moment to go, am I getting out of this what I want? Is this really serving me? Is this helping support me in my life path? Or is it actually something that I'm using to emotionally suppress and push things down and ignore, because I'm just going to, as soon as it comes up again, I'm going to take another dose of mushrooms or whatever it may be. Like, how are we using this to bypass what is meant for us to look at? Right. Mm-hmm. And so I see all of that happening, and seen a lot of really beautiful people who are turning to plant medicine as a way of opening and expanding their mind, but not with a lot of intentional preparation or integration, because sometimes you just don't know any better, or you think the intention of play and fun is enough to keep it in that container of play and fun. I don't want anything else. And going, wow, there's so much more. And so where can you say yes to support? Where can you say yes to, I want to learn more? Where can you say yes to, what if I could do all of these cool things without needing to give my power to a plant or to this facilitator or to this thing?
And I think there's an aspect of there too of like, where can you say yes to listening to your intuition about, is the way that you're using, the amount that you're using, the container that you're using in, whether or not you are using, is that all in alignment with your intuition, with what you want to get out of it, like you were saying, with what your intention is, with your values as a soul, as a human? Is this in alignment with you? Because if it's not, you'll know deep down, even if it's buried a little bit, if there's that nudge in you, if this conversation kind of sparked something in you, it's an opportunity to get curious. And I think there's nothing that the three of us are saying that we think it's wrong or bad or it shouldn't happen. It's, what's the intention behind it? Where's this ceremony? Is it in alignment with you, with your values, with your intuition? And as Chantal was talking about, being in control versus having the medicine have control over you, I think that's a fantastic way of putting it. And the image that I got in my head was stairs versus an escalator. Like, you can take the escalator, you can stand on the escalator, your body doesn't have to move, you don't have to do anything. It's going to take you up, right? But we all know that it's really important to know how to take the stairs, because your body needs that, your mind needs that. That activity is going to get your energy moving, your blood pumping. It's going to make you stronger to actually do the work to walk up the stairs. And there's nothing wrong with taking the escalator sometimes, right? Sometimes we need that support. And actually, it works out as a metaphor too, because like, if you have baggage with you, right? Like, if you are going to the airport with your bag, sometimes you want the escalator to help kind of give you that little support, that push up to the top. But if you don't know how to use the stairs, then it's ultimately rooted in a place of fear. It's ultimately rooted in a place of lack, because it's coming from this belief that you can't do this on your own, that you couldn't reach the same place if you were just walking, if you were doing the work, if you were using your own power. And so you need something else to have the power for you. And that is ultimately where we're calling for a shift, where we're calling for an invitation to look at and say, is that the assumption that you're operating under? And can we be an example of the fact that using the stairs is just as effective? Doing this on your own, doing this sober, doing the work this way is just as effective, and will make your time on the escalator much more enjoyable, because it's then rooted in this self-esteem, this knowing that I could take the stairs, I could do that, I know how to do it, but I'm choosing to do this one time. I'm choosing to do this with intention. I'm choosing to let myself have that support, knowing that I don't need it.
Right. Well, and I love this metaphor too, because if you kind of look at the baggage, if you're taking the escalator with your baggage, you're going to come right down the escalator with your baggage, most likely. Like, you might have unzipped it along the way and might have grabbed something out, and typically, or you shoved it back in and you went down the escalator. Whereas if you're taking the stairs, there's so many opportunities to take a seat on the stair, open up the bag, look through it, go, I actually don't need this thing that I'm carrying, or I don't need that. And I have the support to sit and observe and look into what is it all I'm carrying? Do I need it anymore or not? Maybe I just need to ditch the whole fucking backpack along the way. Like, you have these opportunities when you're walking slowly up the stairs to go, wow, this is fucking heavy and I don't want to carry it anymore. Right. And so I think this is why I am such an advocate of slow and steady growth, like, because it's sustainable. And I think that's what I love about how we operate. It's like, it's okay to go slow and steady. I would much rather do a 4-month program where the stairs are going to be long, right? The stairs, but every single step, you're like, hey, do you need any help? Here's a tool that can help unlock this thing. And when you hit this level of the stairs, we're going to take a break and we're going to integrate and we're going to have a pause. And then there's going to be another flight of stairs. And you can go at your own pace along the journey path. And I think that's the difference, because once you know the staircase, then it's just fucking muscle memory, right? You've got it ingrained. You've done the work. You've unpacked your bag along the way.
I think that was a great visual. It really was. And knowing that that is how it is, and it's having the next flight of stairs and everything, because you can take the break. Once you do the plant medicine, there's no break. You're in it. You are full blown in it. There's no stopping. There's no like, hey, I'm just going to put a pause on this experience right now. It's like, no, you're in it. And so what comes from it, you don't always know. But I do love that metaphor of how you can take it the fast route, or you can take it the slow and steady way that is very sustainable, and know that every day it's accessible to you. You don't have to go take something to do it. You wake up, you're like, you know what? I need a journey this morning. Okay, I'm in bed. I'm going to do my thing right here, right now, call it in, and I've done my journey for the morning, or I'm going to close my day out in it, or whatever. I'm at work. I'm having a moment. What do I need to know about the situation? I'm going to go take a journey. I'll be back in 15 minutes. It literally is that fast, that easy once you have taught yourself how to do it. And through like working with the techniques that we share here, that we do teach, right? And then you take them in your life, and that's your new baggage. You can drop down the old baggage, pick up this new toolbox along the way on your staircase, and say, you know what, these are really here to help me and to help me grow and evolve into this space and place within myself that I can go do the work.
Right, right. And I think this is why I'm already so excited for Soul Rising starting in about a month, because this is what we're doing. This is what we get to do. I'm so honored and privileged to walk along that staircase with our students. And while you journey, I get a journey. While you get a look at your limiting beliefs, I'm looking at mine. While you are exploring what your childhood wounds are, I'm kind of also self-analyzing and assessing, going, is there anything left that I still need to heal from this? And it's an opportunity to continuously reflect, continuously look. And maybe that's just my personality, right? Like, I just don't ever think that there is an end game goal of like being quote unquote healed. I'm done now. I'm ecstatic to be fully living life and wanting things to continuously get better and better. And with these tools, I mean, there's over, like, I think there's 35 to 40 different techniques. Most of them are shamanic techniques of how to really work through and make your life the spiritual oasis sanctuary that you want it to be, right? And it takes work to get there. And the fact that, yeah, we all have fucking baggage, and we get to choose what we're carrying and what we're ready to heal and what we're ready to release, and what tools we want to pick up along the way that's going to support us. And so it's just a really beautiful opportunity and program that we're going to be stepping into very soon.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things that I love about it is that it really does kind of have this double-edged approach of, we're diving really deep into the basics of shamanism, the chakras, shadow work, inner child healing, shamanic journeys, all of the techniques, so that you are learning how to walk the shamanic path, how to embrace your unique spiritual gifts, how to do the work. And we also have this aspect of that self-healing and going at your own pace and discovering things about yourself and working with your inner child and healing your past traumas and all of these things. And so it's like we're walking these paths at the same time of understanding that we can be learning and we can be embracing the path and we can be bringing those tools into our toolkit and we can be learning how to walk the shamanic way in an educational way, and at the same time be doing our healing work, be doing our aligning work, be clearing stuff out in a way that feels gentle. We had a student sharing in our closing call about how she didn't think shadow work could be that gentle. She was always so scared to do shadow work until she came into our course and realized that it just felt like learning. It just felt like self-discovery. It just felt like looking within and being like, wow, I'm a really cool person. Here are all of these like array of experiences and traits and beliefs and all of these things that I now get to explore because I have the toolkit. I have the support from my teachers and my fellow students, and I know myself enough to know that I have the strength to walk up the stairs, right? And so I'm really excited for Soul Rising to start on September 14th. Early bird pricing is now available. It'll be available until the end of August. So if you want to hop on a 15-minute call with us completely for free just to see what the program's about, where are you at? Is this the right next step for you? If it's not, we're going to tell you. But if this is the space for you and you have questions, we want to meet with you. We want to talk with you. Get on a free call with us and we'll just jam and see, is this the right next step for you? Or if you're like, hell yes, I'm in. This is what I want to do. We'll put the link below and you can enroll for early bird pricing now. Like I said, that's available through the end of August. So this is the lowest price. And we do have very extended payment plans available so that it can be financially accessible, spiritually accessible, like all of the things. We want this to be open for everyone because we really believe that if everyone in the world did this work, the world that we live in would be a very different, very beautiful place.
Mhm. It's like an invitation to be, if there's going to be any addictions, it's like be addicted to you and your own journey work and your own like self process of healing and releasing versus what's out there, you know. But I'm not against it. I just, like we're saying, the intention, have that intention and hold strong space for yourself.
Absolutely. Beautiful. Well, thank you all so much as always for listening. Be sure to check out Soul Rising if you haven't and join our email list for more updates about what we have coming up in the community. And until next time, may you awaken to the whispers of wisdom rising from within. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.